Good afternoon, good morning, good night, good evening. I don't know where you are, I don't know where I am, but I'm here in Groningen at Odyssey Mission Control, Odyssey headquarters, with Rutger van Zoudam and a whole bunch of people dialed in from around the world to talk about sovereign nature. This is the finale for the Sovereign Nature track and challenge about protecting marine biodiversity.
Yes.
Before we get into that, Rutger, last year we had a very special challenge that was about protecting or scaling wildlife protection in Borneo. That was with Willie Smits and Co.
Yeah.
And now we go from sort of, I'm going to say the jungle areas, but you know what I mean, to the water.
Yes, in a broader concept, the concept of sovereign nature, or actually the question, how can we provide sovereignty to nature and enable nature to protect itself?
From things like us.
Yes, unfortunately. I think that's a branch of, I would say, the concept of Nature 2.0, where you ask the question, what if nature would own itself and it could stand up for itself, it could even engage into transactions, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, I'm just having heart failure because the TV in front of me says, please push a button within 18 seconds.
Now.
And yes. I hope you didn't press OK, because that's the one that kills the screen. And it's the OLED warm-up, so that's actually going to take several minutes to come back online. It is. I'm just going to check. We don't need to stop rolling.
No, it's there.
Oh, wow. No, later.
Later, yes.
That would have been embarrassing. Because we're live.
No problem. Yeah.
We're live. There's people watching this right now, and maybe people in the future
after this weekend
watching it. If anything could go right, it would be this.
Yes, exactly.
I'd like to turn our attention to some of the guests because they can articulate more about this challenge and this weekend and the experience than I can. And I see in my notes that we're going to start with Victor and Andrea, and I'm originally British, so we're going to go ladies first because that's the way it's done in chivalry. Screw Brexit, we're going to stick to the old ways, when they're good, of course. Andrea, welcome.
Hi, welcome.
I'm loving your backgrounds here. You're also creative with representing your challenge. Tell me a little bit about your experience, not just this weekend, but leading up to this weekend.
So I think that the experience was really interesting for me. It was the first time for me to join the Odyssey adventure. And I have to say that I think beside the big ideas, beyond the things that the pilots brought through, the great presentations that we saw over the weekend, the many conversations that I had with many participants, I think one of the biggest magic moments that you provided with this challenge is actually what is not visible and what is in the background. So I think really all the bridges that have been built, all the connections that have been made, the ways that people become responsible for the future, and the really literal meaning of the way to be able to respond to the challenges. I think for me that is the biggest takeaway. I think if you try to formalize it into what exactly has been built, the big magic disappears into the background. And so I think that really what I would like to say is that the background is what was most impressive to me. Rutger had a funny semi-intentional maybe change of words in one of the live streams when he talked about an event of mass collaboration. And I really think that the mess is what makes this. I think it's impossible to formalize it. It's impossible to formalize it into a video, into any kind of statement, into any kind of proper output. I think really the many occasions that I had to think with people about how should we respond to the challenges of the future was what this event provided, that we could together collaborate towards something like that. So I think that was my biggest take of this event.
Really, thank you for that. I absolutely agree on that, Andrea. Very well put. Can you say perhaps briefly what the Sovereign Nature Initiative is about, and your role in this challenge?
Yeah, so the Sovereign Nature Initiative is really trying to build a container, a platform, a place of facilitation for projects that want to do, I think, one thing in particular, which I would call flipping the economics. So the question of where do market approaches to sustainability end and actual approaches to a non-exploitative, non-extractive relationship to nature start. Mm-hmm. So I think this is the area that is a gray zone, that we don't know where these lines run, and we want to explore them, and we want to work with people that want to explore them in artistic, entrepreneurial, whichever senses of the word. So for the Sovereign Nature Initiative, this has been a great experience to see what kind of things people bring to the table when they are faced with such a challenge.
Wow, that's pretty cool stuff. Thank you so much, Andrea Leiter from Sovereign Nature Initiative. Victor, I'm going to come over to you if you are ready. Victor Tevour from the International Council of Environmental Law. What was your experience? Not just this weekend, but in all the run-up.
Well, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm going to do it in a flash. But I'm going to start with Polaris, because I think it's important to, when Professor Nicholas Robinson and I were at Polaris, we realized we started this and we needed 5 things, or 5 elements we didn't have. We needed an area of the high seas to focus the challenge. We needed a top oceanographer. We needed a top fisheries expert. We needed experts in satellite data analysis. We needed other legal colleagues. So we had to quickly assemble that team. We got it together, and it really paid off this last 3 days, let me tell you. That's really a reward, and to engage 4 amazing teams. I also have to mention, by the way, we have a wow track mayor.
Denise Schweitz.
Amazing, and she did a great job. So I'm just going to wrap it up, just following on Andrea, that I think this collaboration, the ideas that came out of this collaboration and be able to co-create could really make a significant change, a game changer in the interface between science, policy, and law. And we can also do it by incentivizing good human conduct, and also it could be fun along the way.
Could be fun along the way. I mean, the rest of it was really important, of course, but if we can make it fun, then that just makes everything just a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. Victor, you mentioned that you had all these elements that you needed, so I can imagine there are some folks watching this live now or in the future who are wondering, okay, but you took all of these elements, you got them ready for Momentum, and what did you do with them? So if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask David to join us and talk to us a little bit about what this challenge really is, or was, or could be. That's David Freestone from the Sargasso Sea Commission. There he is. Hello, sir. I think you might still be on mute. There we go. We've got you.
Here. So great to be on. Thank you for having us on here. And we're delighted that it was the Sargasso Sea Commission that Nick and Victor approached when they were starting to think about this team, because we already had assembled all those skills. I mean, we've been working on the Sargasso Sea for about 10 years. And I see that Gerard already has a lovely picture of the whales and swimming through the Sargassum, but just a word about it. Sargasso Sea is a unique ecosystem. We call it a sea without coasts because it's held in place really only by the currents of the North Atlantic Gyre around Bermuda. It's a big area. The core area, we think, is 2 million square miles. And unlike other areas of the high seas, there's something there. There's a very visible ecosystem, which is the floating sargassum weed, in which there are endemic species, and also provides a nesting area, a spawning area, and a refuge for a large number of important endangered species, but also commercially important species. So we picked this as an area, but I'm actually an international lawyer. I am actually a member of the council as well. we picked this area ourselves some years ago because we wanted to find an iconic high seas area which people could visualize as being in need of protection. And it's important from a legal point of view because there is no regulatory framework for this very important system. I mean, there are some general rules relating to movement of traffic of vessels. There is a fisheries organization, but it covers a whole North and South Atlantic. There's no environmental treaty that covers this area. So it's a very significant area. We have now 10 governments who are actually supporting our work, but we do it from a political collaboration framework. And we are finding it really difficult to convince the regulatory bodies that govern human activities in this area that they need to take action. And why can't we convince them? Because we can't find the evidence. And this is where all the data which is available from various spaces is so important. It's actually mobilizing all the data which people have in various niches and particular places, which that's what we need. We need access to this information, both to spread the word on how important it is and how important to take action, but also so that we can utilize it for governance. So that's basically what we're trying to do. And that was the challenge we laid out. And it's been amazing to see the various ways, the different ways that the teams have actually responded to this. We had a fantastic one. My colleague Howard Rowe was with me in Victor, and when we were in The Hague right at the beginning of this year. Seems a very long time ago.
Great. It was great meeting you there.
It seemed a very long time ago, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We had a great audience, had a lot of people following, a lot of questions, and we've ended up, I think, with a fantastic competition. We've all learned an enormous amount, and so we're delighted to. This is not something that at my stage in my career or with my skill base I would have ever thought I'd been involved in, and it's stretched us all, and I think it's been an amazingly challenging and very fruitful. And I look forward to this as the beginning of the journey, rather than just than the culmination of it.
Fabulous. Thanks for highlighting the uniqueness, I guess, of this challenge. I didn't realize the Sargasso Sea was quite that large. That's pretty epic.
Yeah. Wait until you find out how it is connected to the rest of the planet. Right. We can't go into depth, but that story is
into depth.
Yes. No pun intended.
Fabulous.
Want to do a deep dive, Nick?
Deep dive. Good one. We're going to move on because David just mentioned something there, and he said the word competition, because whilst this is, as mentioned by Andrea, a mass collaboration perspective, we did have a slightly competitive element, and we did ask our challenge leads and some jury members of their choosing to potentially highlight one of the teams. And my understanding, I think I should be talking to David here, is that you did come to a decision to recognize one team with a prize. Is that correct?
I think you should be talking to Victor, right? I think he's our lead, isn't he? I mean, I don't want to spill his...
Victor's giving me the finger. No. One of you is taking this.
We have identified one, yes.
Okay, so there is one identified. That's good. If I could just go out to the grid view for a second, because we got to fix this one way or another. I've got Victor, I've got Andrea, and I've got David. All of you are challenge leads. Yeah, I've got something special for Nicholas afterwards. Although if all these folks chicken out, then we'll give it to Nicholas. That's fine.
No.
I'd like to know which one of you would like to help me announce this winning team.
We thought we'd nominated Victor really for this because he's been such a fantastic leader of this. He's
we agree.
Herded us like cats through this whole process.
Yeah, okay.
We definitely did. Definitely, okay. Victor.
Okay, so I hear from two people, and Victor did not get his microphone off in time to deny that. So by very democratic, or maybe undemocratic, depending on Victor's perspective, voting, Victor, it's going to be you, but it's going to be super simple. I'm going to ask you one question, and that is, are you confident that you know the name of the team that wins this prize?
Yes.
You do? Fabulous. Then here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set up a drum roll. I'm going to count from 3 to 2 to 1 and then ask you to name that team, and I'll take it over from there, if that's okay with you. All right.
Perfecto.
If I could start the drum roll, which is actually here on my left. And in 3, 2, 1, Victor, please tell us the name of the team who has the winning prize.
It's 7 Protect.
Team 7 Protect. There we go. Yannick on our screen. Well done. And so claps from all the other folks in there. Let's go over to Yannick. Hello, sir.
Hello there.
With Bob Dylan in the background. I like to see that. Fantastic. Sorry, he had to tell me that before the call, so we're all good.
Yeah.
Yannick, congratulations. You and your team, 7, and that's spelled with a C, C-E-V-E-N, 7 Protect. Tell us a little bit about what attracted you to this challenge and what you did this weekend.
Well, actually at 7, and 7 Protect being sort of a part of 7. 7, by the way, stands for Earth and is Elvish. We are attracted to all sorts of sovereign nature initiatives or sovereign nature work, and actually teamed up with one of your successful teams from last year, Space for Good. Mm-hmm. So most of the specialists in the team are actually originally from Space for Good. And for us, it was sort of a no-brainer to join this challenge. And especially when I saw David and Victor present the challenge, it was a no-brainer for us to tackle that. Yes.
All right.
Why was it a no-brainer for you?
Because it's at the core of what we do at 7, anyways. And the sea is potentially one of the ecosystems most interesting to us. Most of what we do else is in the realm of forests. So the sea is just the next sort of ecosystem to tackle with creative approaches.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about what you collectively built this weekend?
So we basically tried, everybody was stressing that it was important to include all the stakeholders in the solutions. And basically we took quite some time to brainstorm what we want to do. And I think it paid off. And we basically tried to find a common incentive to bring all stakeholders to one platform. And by that, we basically tried to gain as much information from David as we could. And we found out that there is a lack of information on a huge part of the eastern Sargasso Sea, because within only about 7 years, lots of fishery started there and lots of activity that they're not really sure about what they do there. So we tried to come up with a platform that incentivizes the actors within this ecosystem to share their data, and in return, basically reward them with a rating for good sustainable behavior. So we tried to basically create a platform for the Sargasso Sea Commission to gain insight into what's going on in the eastern part of their protected area or their beloved area.
How would that work in practice? What is under the hood? What kind of mechanism do you use for that?
Basically, we want to create a platform that has different dashboards or logins for the different actors, and the actors that provide the data are the fisheries. And what they do is they self-report on the itinerary, basically their travel route within this area of the Sargasso Sea, and they self-report on the catch, also including bycatch potentially. And then we have Earth observation specialists, who we call gannets, because that's one of the long-range birds that actually flies over this area. And they basically check the data, try to verify it by AIS data and by satellite data, radar data as well, and then feed it back into the system and approve of the data when it's correct. And the Sargasso Sea Commission and the other stakeholders after that can profit from that data.
Okay, because my next question would be is why would they give that data, but how do the incentives work?
As David mentioned, there is not a specific body that governs this area or that protects this area. So since there is a mega trend of sustainable consumption and sustainable production, we think that we kind of try to go into that mega trend and give the fisheries an incentive to share the data and therefore basically receive a positive rating for their fishing activities if they behave sustainably, and proven by that checkup by the EO specialists.
That's an interesting mechanism.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for me. As Rutger knows, I work with quite a lot of innovation in the heading towards the future, of course. And what I've noticed in the last few years is exactly this mega trend that Yannick is mentioning, and that is that people all of a sudden, more recently, have started, and I mean en masse, to really care about what brands and companies do and where these products come from. And so, it would be very easy for us to think, I say us, I mean you, old school, how do we punish people? But my feeling is between now and, if I had to put a date on it, I think 2030, I hope folks like you can speed it up. It's actually going to flip the other way around. We won't need to punish people. People will simply stop purchasing their products, stop supporting that brand if they can't justify or prove that they have a right to exist by being a good ethical company. So I really love the perspective you've got there on let's start rewarding them and letting them prove that they're good and pull in their intrinsic motivation, because I think sooner or later that is going to become an extrinsic motivation that is much more valuable.
So how did you work with the stakeholders to put everything together?
So at first we sort of set out to find data and basically found out that it's pretty hard to get satellite and remote sensing data on the area. So the first stakeholder that we would have to approach is potentially data delivery or producers of data. Then we want to get in touch with EO specialists and basically try to fail fast and sort of build the mechanism on bogus data or on dummy data and try to find out whether it works and whether there is enough interest in it. And then once that's set up, we have to contact the fisheries and make it known that there is this system that they could use to incentivize that they could get basically a good rating and by that also have a profit from it in a positive sense and not get punished but rewarded for good behavior.
Yep.
And you mentioned that you were working with some of the folks from the Space for Good team who, of course, were on the challenge that I mentioned a while ago, the scaling wildlife protection last year. So I can imagine that they might have had some insights or some tips on how you can leverage some of this stuff. Was there something in specific that you think they carried through from last year that gave you a bump this year?
Well, besides that, it feels really good to be outsmarted by everyone else in the team. Basically, most of the experience, or basically, is so deeply engraved in the way that they work at Space for Good that we had this huge insight into how to come up with very specific use cases from abstract data or an abstract challenge. So, of course, I think the whole experience at Odyssey from last year and last year's success is basically deeply engraved into everyone working on Space for Good.
And with Space for Good, I also guess that you can easily tap into data gathered by the European Space Agency or NASA.
Yeah, so we at Seven we work with similar people, or we actually have one very close tie to one of the platforms that is responsible for the exchange of this data, called Claudio. So we are close to each other anyways, and it was sort of a natural match.
Wow,
nice.
Great stuff. One of the things we promised you, Yannick, was not only the potential of winning a prize, but winning an award. It's like the trophy as we would have had in the old world, but now we're in the digital world. As we promised, that has happened. It's not an award created by us. In fact, it was created by you, your team, all the other folks in your track. If I do some magic clickety, it will be on screen any second now. So that's a piece of digital art created with 2,940 tiny blocks. That's the minutes in the hackathon where you and your team were working. There are some larger chunks in there that represents the wows and the impress factor that you had across your track. And hidden underneath all of that is some complex branching stuff, and that is the amount of ecosystem interest that you managed to create. That's all wrapped up, along with your team name for now being the winner, into a digital art that is locked, signed, sealed, delivered, available at a good internet connection near you, with all the credentials wrapped up in a non-fungible token, put on the blockchain somewhere. We will send you the keys to the kingdom, and you have bragging rights for eternity, as promised. If I may, and congratulations once more, of course. If I may, I would love to flip over to Professor Robinson, because you've also been a part of this track for quite some time.
Since it's got initiated, before it went initiated.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I've got notes here to say, please ask Nicholas to look back on this journey that you have had, and then also maybe just a little bit forward. So that's what I'm going to do.
Well, it's been a superb journey to be on, and I want to thank each of the teams that participated. We learned from George and Gepko and Gerard a lot on this journey, and we're grateful to their participation along with Yannick. And I think we have a basis for continuing this dialogue into the future, because the Sargasso Sea is not going to be saved just by worrying about fish. Everyone who likes to have an eel has a great link to the Sargasso Sea, because the eels of the Atlantic migrate from Europe and North America there to breed. And without the Sargasso Sea, there would be no eels. So I'd like to see the little glass eels one day be able to be tracked in such a way that if there's excessive consumption and they're no longer sustainably taken, they can do as Andrea says, they can call out everybody for their misbehavior and cause us to stop over harvesting those eels and get on with the business of sustainable community of life with the eels. So I really entered this because I wanted to find autonomous ways for nature to help protect itself, and for us humans to give our knowledge about nature to an objective format, platform if you want to call it, but some kind of entity that can help nature better protect itself. All of the environmental laws we've been creating, and I began this journey before I was a lawyer, as a youngster, as did many of the others. Howard and some of the other scientists began as youngsters just loving nature and going out into nature. We're not going to save the planet if we cannot harness our love of nature and find ways to create new communities. And what's so wonderful about Odyssey and this momentum that's been created is you've created a community. It's a community of all of those who are doing coding. It's a community of all those who want and need the coding to help improve their systems. You use the word ecosystem in a very broad way, taking not just the scientific concept of ecosystems, but as a community of interrelated and interconnected and interdependent beings. So I'd like to see this grow into the future. And I think what you've done with these last 3 days is it's not just the first step. We're still kind of climbing out of the basement, but we're looking for the first step. And as we find that first step, we're going to really move forward. And the skill set that Odyssey has assembled from the emerging technology specialists of the world is awesome. We've learned so much about it and about ourselves from it. So this is the beginning of a long journey. And I want to especially thank Rutger and the whole team for what you've been doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
some sound effects here in the background as well. Well said. And Nicholas, you're talking about the future. What do you see as the future for Team 7 Protect? And if I heard you right, and I'm gonna take a little bit of a liberty here, you also extended an invitation to the other teams to keep the dialogue open. There are no losers here. We're all trying to make the world a better place. What do you see is happening in the next? And I want to say the next 3 to 6 months, but maybe that's not the right timeline. But you understand what I mean.
Well, I think we have to sit down and take the ideas we've had and turn them into an operational model that we can begin to apply and refine and build as we go along. Our partner in this is the Sargasso Sea Commission. They're an extraordinary group, interdisciplinary group. I think through this Odyssey trip, we've broadened that group to include the emerging technologies, very, very especially. You've broadened the International Council of Environmental Law, and we're going to start a legal group to help build support for the approaches that you've done. I think if the pandemic allows, we will make a presentation to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature on how all of these emerging technologies should be applied for wider conservation work. It's already being done for illegal wildlife trade and some illegal timbering and so on, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. It should be done for sustainability and all the indicators of sustainability. So we'll make that presentation to the World Conservation Congress when it's next held. It's been postponed because of the pandemic. And then I think we see ways for partnerships. For instance, the Conflict Resolution Challenge is about to have a workshop. You can't have a peaceful ocean, and the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea is about maintaining the peace of the oceans. Without some of the skill sets that the Conflict Resolution Challenge was talking about. So across the challenges, there are ways for us to begin to collaborate together on mutually important ways to strengthen AI for good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for bringing this challenge in our direction and
thank you, Nicholas.
Taking it forward again.
Well, thank you all.
You're very welcome. I get up every day to do this stuff. That's awesome.
What I think is pretty cool, this challenge, as we were flying this weekend, this challenge was also basically initiated while flying because Nicholas and I met coincidentally on a plane from Amsterdam to Geneva. So when we're talking about building the airplane while flying, well,
that's how it started and how it finished.
Exactly, and how it's going now. Yes, exactly. It was nowhere near finished yet.
Fantastic.
We got a long way to fly, but thanks so much to everyone here.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Very good.
If I may, I've got a few minutes left, so I'd love to go back to David Freestone, because Nicholas mentioned there the Sargasso Sea Commission. Can we get David back on screen for me? That just makes it a bit easier for me. David, you announced the winner there of Team 7 Protect.
That was Victor.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was Victor doing it, but I'm going to go back to David here for a moment. Why was it this one?
Well, I mean, they're all extremely. It was a very difficult choice. I mean, that's the first point. I mean, this is we were impressed with it. You know, everything we heard over the whole weekend, right? And particularly the hours people were working was amazing. I mean, we zeroed in on 7 because of the vision which Yannick sort of outlined. I think we probably need some fine tuning and some work on it. I think he'd be the first to admit that. But it's the actual the mixing of the actual technical skills with the vision, which we thought was a winner. I mean, others had that as well, and others had bigger visions, etc. But so it was a different. We just liked the way that it was presented. He did actually, or in their team did actually start off with Homer as well, reminding us that Odysseus, when he fell in the water, was rescued by a gannet. I think it probably should have been an albatross, actually, but yeah, that's their logo.
That's a minor detail, yeah.
But that was the deciding issue. But it was just the vision and the presentation we liked very much, and the combination of the skills. But everybody had them. Everybody was there, and they worked incredibly hard. So we hope that we can keep everybody aboard, because there were little bits of everything that they had, which we would like. And I could say, if I just have a minute, the Sargasso Sea Commission just got a big grant from the Global Environment Facility. So one of the issues that we're looking at is big data. So this is big data, right? So these are the guys who actually know how to deal with big data. So please all stay engaged.
Very good. That's
fantastic. And my advice to the teams is, hey, if your challenge leads are putting out this invitation, if you like, keep connected and see what fits. I will remind you that last year Space for Good were not the winning team.
Got a big project
but
out of
they
the
landed
follow-up.
the biggest pilot project and continued on that for eternity. It's still going. I've got Andrea put back on my screen, so I think that is a subtle hint.
Yeah, I will ask a question to Andrea. So, with the Sovereign Nature Initiative, Andrea, what role can you play in the continuation of the projects and the work that has been done within the track moving forward?
So I think that maybe the part that the Sovereign Nature Initiative can contribute is that it is, I think, an organic part of the blockchain ecosystem for some time. So I think the network that supports the Sovereign Nature Initiative in the back is broad and large. And so we would very much like to support the effort of Seven to bring that to the next level. And draw on stakeholders that we can to bring them on board. That's, I think, the one part that the Sovereign Nature Initiative can contribute. I think the other part is really that we are focusing on trying to think about this question of what would it actually mean for nature to be self-governing? Like, what is this idea? Where is the agency in this whole thing? What does it mean if someone writes an algorithm and then that's nature governing itself? What would it be for a whale to have a wallet? Like, what is this concept? Who is making the decisions for the whale if he has a wallet? So I think we come in at this level of how does that actually change the relationship between humans, nature, and technology if we move with this? Where are the dark sides that have to be discovered along this journey, trying to point to them early on?
Yeah. So we're going to tokenize the governance of whale protection.
Yeah.
I have this mental image, of course, of whales swimming around with a physical wallet or purse or some sort of thing in my head.
I thought you were going to say bazooka to
to
get rid of the ships that want to shoot them. But
so I mean that's the thing. When Rutger first explained to me what the concept of self-sovereign nature. So exactly the example that Andrea brought up. How can the whales have a wallet that enables them, if under threat, to initiate actions to save themselves? And I was just like,
but Nick,
this is nuts. But so necessary.
In the Energy Singularity track, if a solar panel can fund a band, then can a whale have its own solar panel and fund its protection? Question mark.
Wait, okay, I see what you just did there, and that might not be immediately obvious for the people watching this, or indeed the folks here in the room. So I'm going to rewind a little bit, and maybe I'm going to throw this to Andrea, because were you watching the previous finale, or not the previous, but the Energy Singularity finale?
Nick, how can you put me on the spot like this?
It's okay if you say no.
We timed it. Really.
I understand that there were technical issues and you were not able to join that as you wished.
Exactly.
But one of the teams in that challenge, you know, they wanted to incentivize people like us to do better with their energy, and they said, you know, kilowatt hours are really boring things to talk about. How can we take a target group and make energy I want to say tangible, understandable to them in a way that gets them excited? And he said, so why couldn't, and now I'm losing my own train of thought, why can't somebody, and I think this was directed at a target group of maybe teenagers or teens, young folks, why couldn't they have a solar panel on their roof, and the energy that it generates, or the value of the energy that generates, goes and supports their favorite band wherever they are in the world, musicians, artists, you name it. And that for me was a bit of a moment where I had to shift my mindset, because it's wow. And now Rutger just casually drops the suggestion that if I care about the whales, and there's a lot of people who care about whales, I could keep doing all my donations, for example, to great organizations that want to save the whales and help the whales and clean up the seas. But what if I could actually just give my money to the whale?
Yes, that was what I was kind of saying in the two lines. But yeah, that's really well explained, Nick,
Yeah,
this
but
time.
not everybody understands what you're talking about. So, Andrea, now that you've heard that, what about direct sponsorship of whales with wallets?
Nicholas wants to say something.
Oh.
Well, I think you want to take that idea, and I was listening to the energy singularity discussion. You want to make each bit of energy personal to the user, and that was the theme that was coming through. So, how are we going to make the sargassum personal to you?
Yeah.
Here are these little plants that are host to other little creatures, but they are part of the photosynthesis of the planet. A third of our oxygen or more comes from the phytoplankton of the ocean. None of us are going to breathe if we don't save this area, at least as well as we do now. So let's make oxygen molecules also as personal as where do the oxygen molecules come from? We need them to live, but we have to connect these dots, and that's what's so wonderful about everything you've been doing with securing data and data flows and being aware of data. We'll connect the dots, not just to the whales. People get that.
Yeah.
But I want to have an I-thou relationship with the sargassum.
Wow. Andrea, I don't know if you could have put that better yourself, but no pressure.
Well, look, I will put something else on the table because I'm not in a competition here. So I think that the one thing that is important is the wallet stands representatively for a distribution of money. And we all know money is power on a very fundamental level. So if there are other entities, other interests holding part of the pie, there will be ways to make their voices heard in a different way. So I think that the idea cannot be to predefine what it is needed. But I think that leveling the playing field through a more pluralist game where more players have means to empower themselves, I think that's the bottom line.
That's what it's about, Andrea. Yes.
And I think everybody in the call was simultaneously nodding there. I see Nicholas Robinson clapping, and I saw Victor pointing a finger. Did you want to add to that, or were you just...
No, one more thing. I think we can also influence and change governments. We work in the area of environmental diplomacy, believe it or not, what that is. And by taking information, this kind of platforms, and putting it out there, we are going to outperform them, believe me. And I think that's very, very impressive. ISIL works with UN. We have consultative status. We work very closely with the United Nations Environment Program. And believe me, they are building that into their program of action for the next 5 years. So this is moving actually at a good speed. So I think also that element will come here together.
Great, fantastic. Thanks for that addition. Unfortunately, we are pretty much out of time. So if you're wondering what that was all about, that was the finale for the check of protecting marine biodiversity.
Sovereign nature.
Fascinating stuff. My knowledge has been increased again. We did announce a winning team, and that was 7 Project. Well done, Yannick. But
congratulations.
The invitation was put out to the other teams to remain connected, keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully just keep taking more steps to make this world a better place. If you guys just hang on the call one moment, thank you so much for watching. We are still not done, but we do need to take a little bit of a break. So we are going to be back here in, I believe, 18 minutes. For what I hope is the last of the finales. It's been a long day for us.
Definitely not least.
And that is going to be about outcompeting destructive systems. So you can see there's been a kind of a narrative on our order of ceremonies today. Again, congratulations to you folks. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to cut the live stream and put it on pause for a moment so that I can go, well, you know what I need to do. And we'll be back soon. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you all.
Bye.